the country and beyond today. My name is Akisa Wandera. Let's begin with the highlights. All right, let's just begin. President Uhuru Kenyatta has flagged off caravans to ferry books to schools countrywide. The president called on the publishers to ensure faith-based and private schools get the books at the same cost as they sold the books to the government. A tough-talking President Kenyatta chided those opposed to the single sourcing of textbooks by the government, saying their opposition is ill-advised. The Kenya Literature Bureau obtained approval to print 18 million copies of biology, English and chemistry for distribution to schools. The books are approved by the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, KICD.
Books has significantly reduced, as we were just told here, and hence this should benefit parents and guardians alike. The cost-effective and efficient measures have also assured that every student in the target group will have the required core textbooks. And I'm happy to note that with a one core coursebook policy, private schools, and even those run by faith-based organizations should, and the publishers who are here, tafadhali tukubaliane, mmepata biashara kubwa sana, yeah? Kutoka serikali. There is no reason why you cannot give the private schools the books and the faith-based school also at the same price. They must also be able to access at the same price that the government has accessed.
Let's now speak to our reporter, Timothy Otieno, who covered that particular event for us. Is joining us live from Karen, where that particular event was being held. Timothy, we've just had bits of what the president said while officially ferrying off for commissioning for those books to be ferried to various schools in the country. So moving on in terms of distribution of books, what should Kenyans expect to see?
Well, Akisa, basically the short of it is that by the end of the day, at least 30 counties should be able to have received these particular books that were launched today here by the president. And over the next 2 days, during the weekend, the process and the caravans should reach out to all 47 counties. Now, remember, this exercise is supposed to be completed by the 9th of January, when Form 1s are expected to be joining various schools countrywide. So it's a program that was timed to ensure that by the time Tuesday reaches, all students in the country and all schools in every county will be able to have gotten these books from the government. And the communication here, as has been over the last number of weeks, is that each child is expected to receive at least 6 textbooks for those who are joining Form 1, 3 from all the science subjects, biology, chemistry, and physics, as well as 1 textbook for mathematics, for English, and for Swahili. Remember, the rollout has also not left behind primary schools. Standard 7 pupils and Standard 8 pupils will also each be receiving 4 textbooks, 1 for science, 1 for mathematics, 1 for English, and 1 for Swahili. It's an ambitious project that the government says it's costing it at least 7.1 billion shillings. And from that statement that you heard from the president, talking tough that it will not be business as usual for those who seek to gain illegally from the future of Kenyans. But Akisa, at the moment, I just want to speak to one guest who I have here. He is the chairperson of the Kenya Publishers Association, Mr. Lawrence Jagit, to try and expound further and talk to parents as to how this rollout will take place and which books to buy and which ones to stay away from. So, Mr. Njagit, thank you so much for speaking to KTN News. We have seen the launch of the textbooks. Talk to us, first of all, about how the publishers, what role will the publishers play in this quest to change the education curriculum in the country?
Thank you very much. First of all, let us put something very clear that this is not just a normal occurrence. This is in the history of education system since independence, where in one go, over 1 million children are receiving over 6 million books. That is a momentous day for Kenya. And not just for Kenya, I think it has not happened anywhere else in the world. But that is the commitment that we have as publishers in supporting the government to achieve education for all. So I think, for me, if you ask me, is that we are in a good place because the minute you equalize children by ensuring they have the learning materials, therefore equalizing the platform, then you'll find children in Tharaka, children in Baringo, children in Kisumu, children all over the country at par, and therefore education becomes accessible and easily then for everybody in the country. Yes.
Initially, as publishers, you had raised concerns that following this directive to have books given to students free of charge by the government, you'd experience dead stock, you'd undergo losses. Have those issues been addressed? And then also talk to us about the tendering process. The president mentions that this was an open tender. Talk to us about that process.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I think we must always realize, and as publishers, we have that realization very clear in our minds. The first important thing to think about is not profits. It is our children. These are our children, my children, your children. They must first and foremost get education. Let's let the profits follow later. So yes, we expect some dead stock. Yes, we expect a few losses here and there. But the greater good is to have every child get a book on day one. To me, that overrides everything else that we can be speaking today. When it comes to the tendering process, this was an extremely open tendering process. 6 books were approved on every subject, every class. 6 publishers among the 6 which were approved were asked to tender, and the best tender won. This was an extremely open tender. No one can say that there was any underhand dealings. It was done in front of everyone, and indeed, that's why if you realize the cost of books came drastically down, because the customer, the government this time, is buying directly. And therefore, as a publisher, I react to the government's need for the books and the quantity they are providing. So the tendering process, to me, was 100% excellent.
Thank you so much, Bwana Lawrence, for speaking to KTN News. We'll let you be on your way. Thank you so much. Of course, Akisa, that is the chairperson of the Kenya Publishers Association, Lawrence Njagi. And just before I let you go, Akisa, also something that came out from today's event from the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development was that every child, and even the president himself did say this, that every child will be accommodated in the education structure, the new education structure that is being rolled out. So, for instance, for those students who will not have been able to get the, I beg your pardon, the C+ and above requirement grade to join universities, they will be enrolled in different artisan programs. For those who will get D+ and D-, and those who get E will be enrolled in beg your pardon, in other craft, artisan and craft culture kind of certificates. So they will be progressing to the next level, and ultimately such students will also be able perhaps to get their bachelor's degree and their master's, even though this process may take much longer because they will have then now to bridge. But the president himself says that no child will be left behind, regardless of whichever grade that they attain at this particular time, even as they try to roll out this very ambitious project that the president himself says is very much close to his heart, Akisa.
All right, Timothy Otieno, our reporter there for us in Karen, where President Uhuru Kenyatta has officially launched the books that, the caravans rather, that will be taking the books to various schools. As Timothy reports there, that